Three, two, one, and we are live on YouTube on the Transforming Human Systems channel. It's interesting. I actually started this channel with this guy I met on I think it was an emotional intelligence conference. And we exchanged some emails, and way back at the beginning of the pandemic, we did a series on modeling. I think maybe it was an MIT event or something, because we have an MIT connection somewhere along the way. And he's just pinged me a couple days ago. They're doing a research study on, I think, use of social media, how it impacts mental health, something like that.
Oh,
You know, it's interesting is that it's a similar dynamic. Like, he's interested in all the same things, but he's kind of got a business built around a certain way of looking at the problem. There's our friend Tom. He's interesting. He's here on FaceTime.
oh.
Did we send him the link? Hello, do you need a link, Tom?
Yeah, I don't have any link that I know about. Maybe you're supposed to use the same one every time? Or?
Yes, we do use the same one every time, but I will resend it to you.
Okay, I think I better record it somewhere. I'm not that used to. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I should remember to send out the link ahead of time just to be safe. Make sure we all have it. And yeah, so like when I saw, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, there you are. Sorry, you still on FaceTime there? Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I can hear you, hear me, but I don't know if Ernest can. And Ernest can hear me. I don't know if Ernest can hear Tom or if it's.
I can hear him. I don't see him.
I just FaceTimed into you, but I'm joining the video link now. So
There he is.
got it.
Okay.
Got it. Update Zoom. Oh my God.
And I muted the FaceTime one so you can get on your Zoom audio. So Ernest can hear you. You're still muted. Oops. That was weird. Either he pushed the wrong button or he had trouble with his audio and had to restart. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. I thought that was actually a really good session last time. I feel like we covered a lot of ground and got into a clearer sense of, in practice, like I've had a vague understanding of the theory of Valpan and language, but I think the thing that really struck me was Tom, I don't know if you can hear us yet. You're still muted. I don't know if your audio is having issues.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, there you are. Okay, great.
Right.
We're all here. We are live on YouTube here. I was just talking about a friend of mine that I started the Transforming Human Systems YouTube channel with a year and a half ago at the start of the pandemic. He's actually a researcher who works with MIT and trying to figure out how to do data-driven change interventions in organizations and sort of groping towards how to do that in society as well. So again, a sort of a parallel path, completely different tool set, slightly different mental model. And that's one of my larger dreams, is that there's lots of people who care about things like that and who have solutions that work within a particular context, but then trying to figure out, is there a way to make this all sort of one community that agrees on a certain set of values and practices, to sort of learn from each other rather than always being reinventing the wheel every time.
Yeah. Let's see. Let me take an approximation there. Everybody's invited to get together one way or the other, but there's no harm in separate parallel movements experimenting at early stages to find out what works. and maybe keeping in contact. So let's think of for the moment, a federation of people who at one level have the interest of changing society in a certain direction, and the other, they have their own models they're trying out. Everything we do for the next 50 years is going to be experimental in some sense. And then, but maybe the model is to learn from each other what works and what doesn't, share ideas, I think, and that's good enough for the beginning.
Right. I think that's true. I think this actually would be a good time for me to talk about some of the things that I feel a tension around in that goal, unless either of you had something else you wanted to focus on for today's session.
I'm listening.
All right. So, I really like the hard work we did in really driving these 4 criteria, and around transparency of the Datocracy development process, quantified engineering rigor, unanimous committee agreement, tamper-proof development history. And, I'm not 100% settled on any of these, but I feel like they capture really important things that, we could tweak as we go along. The thing that I feel the tension around, and this intersects somewhat with what I've talked about with Ernest, although I'm not sure, but it gets to this issue of collaboration. So there's 2 things that I find challenging. One is the lack, and again, I don't know if these, and maybe this is the way to present this. These are 2 possible values, which I'm not sure are important to you or important to the state of Datocracy, but I want to at least put them out there and see if we can see if they're worth pursuing at this time, or whether we should put them off until we do other things first. Let me frame it that way. So the 2 things that are, when I do stuff, I obsess over, which is partly just my personality, I don't know, which is idiosyncratic and which is actually relevant. One is sort of public accessibility. That when I do stuff like this YouTube video, it's out there in public because, and again, this is sort of a internal conviction, I'm not sure it's practically useful, but the idea that this is now part of the public record, anyone can see it, anyone can be inspired by it, anyone can riff on it. And doing things inside of ValPlan where it's tedious and sort of not live to take data and put it outside, that always feels a bit awkward to me. Again, I don't know if this is important or relevant or not, but it's a tension I'm feeling. And then related to that is this issue of open formats. I'm spending a lot of time fighting through data integration challenges in my day job and trying to move off of proprietary tools onto open source tools and things like that. And it sort of wears on my soul. I don't know if this is a rational or necessary or timely concern, but that when we create these beautiful ValPlan things, but then they're all kind of locked into this proprietary tool, and I can't version control them. I can't trivially share them with somebody who can read them and riff on them. And so those are 2 of the values that are important to me personally, and I think in the long term are relevant for Datocracy, but I'm struggling with whether or not that's a short-term issue that we should spend our time and energy on, or whether it's something that I should put on the shelf for later. Did that make any sense, Tom?
Yep. By the way, I have added 2 values to the set, and I don't know if I put it in the right set, but it doesn't matter. Development process objectives, and one is public accessibility, and the other is collaboration. And so my response is that we're absolutely in a brainstorming mode, trying to find our way here. So my policy is always the moment you start discussing something, write it down in the model somewhere, so it doesn't escape, so it doesn't get forgotten. So it's always hanging there until you do something with it, like delete it or define it or officially move it to a certain place. So, okay, so I've captured those 2. And then the second thing is that they sound like valid and interesting concerns to me. But the mere word like collaboration or public accessibility invites ambiguity, of course. So it really is necessary for us to define them a little bit better, so we at least can have a better discussion about them. Okay. In other words, it promotes the discussion first within us, and then with any parties outside that we have defined better than just your oral words now have disappeared in a way. I mean, I think they're in my memory, but maybe Ernest has a different memory of what you said. I'm pretty sure if we both wrote down exactly what I think you said, we get two highly different versions. Only by writing them down and saying, that's our official version, and we three agreed on it. We argued about it, and we tuned it, but we finally said, that's good enough for us.
Mm-hmm.
Then we can present it to other people for discussion with them.
Okay, that's actually really helpful. And you're right, even just writing it down reduces my anxiety level because we've externalized some of the internal emotion into a concrete artifact. And that's what I love about what we're doing with ValPlan. I think before we dig into these, I guess I would like to sort of open the floor a bit to see if there's any other possible top level objectives that are pressing upon people that we should add to the pot before we do a deep dive on one of these two.
So public accessibility and data format.
Collaboration, I think, was sort of the way that you framed the issue of the open format, and we can dig into that more. It's an interesting framing of it that I have to spend some time to try and work my head around. Was there anything else that's been on your mind or heart, Ernest, that you wanted to throw into the ring?
I think this is a good start.
Okay. And Tom, I guess we're practicing the unanimous agreement. Does this?
No, I'm happy just that they're written down and they're staring us in the face right now. And so, we could do, we could easily, even in a short meeting, you can throw in a rough ambition level to get the conversation flowing a little bit further. And then some, one of us or might take these after the meeting and try to detail them for presentation in the next meeting or discussion by email.
Yeah. So one thing that would help me is that, and again, this is sort of what I'm trying to wrap my head around. So I think in terms of, and this is probably a overly low level technical thing, is as an open format, because it allows this sort of open ecosystem of permissionless innovation. And that's actually, to me, the thing, maybe that's actually a better term for me. What I'm thinking about here, it's less about having a formal system for collaboration, but having, sorry, the Chocolate Lab wanted to weigh in on this for some reason. It's less about, like, when I think of collaboration, I think of, well, I can invite someone into a shared space and, set up a Google group or whatever. But the thing I'm interested in is really more the permissionless innovation piece of it. If that's, I don't know if that's well defined either, but I wonder if it's.
Now notice that we can take the permissionless innovation and use it as our tag if it just feels better.
Right, and so
let me there, but I mean, copy and paste it in there. And now we still need to define but I mean, change the tag.
Okay.
That was what good. That feels better for you, and that's good enough. Now, what's the ambition level for permissionless innovation? Anybody can submit any kind of idea, kind of. I think that's what I read by it, but.
Yeah, so let me just start with something as a riff, and then we can iterate it. The idea is that anyone on the internet can view, fork, and improve upon the work we are doing.
Okay, good. I reacted the moment I heard the word on the internet. Although the essential tool might be on the internet, I could imagine that we picked up ideas. So just take an example. We had a lot, like a town hall in a city in Africa, and there's no internet there, but we picked up ideas and somebody there put them on the internet. But the ideas didn't have to be directly from the person who came with them to the internet. So so they on the internet seemed unnecessarily restrictive. Anyone, anywhere, anytime sounds more in the permissionless area that you're trying to create here.
That's true. Yeah. Again, like I said, I tend to probably overly focus on the technical level, and I think it's probably
I mean,
start with a more.
there are lots of ways of getting it to the internet, which.
But yeah, I think this is also good for me to kind of elevate my thinking from like, what could I build in the next month to what is the value objective, right?
Right.
The objective is actually something broader than that, and I shouldn't limit my objective to just what I'm comfortable imagining myself implementing. That can become a strategy later or a audience within that or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. We're riffing. This is Ernest.
Yes.
How are you feeling about any of those words? Anything you feel like needs definition or elaboration?
Well, okay, so we're giving permission to other people to use what we're working on. So we're saying our work is available for everyone to use. So it's more like looking out than looking in. Is that the purpose of this by permissionless innovation?
Well, it's not so much that we are giving permission, is that we are exposing our work under terms that anyone who finds it can act on it, right? It's sort of like the idea of view source or a Creative Commons license that says, hey, here it is.
Wikipedia comes to mind.
Sorry?
Wikipedia comes to mind.
Yeah. Wikipedia has a interesting, they have view and edit and improve upon. It is not, I guess in theory, because it's under GFDL, you could actually also fork Wikipedia, although that is, I guess, order of magnitude harder. And I don't know if they actually make it easy. I guess they do sort of do something like that with other languages. Anyway, yes, Wikipedia is definitely something that has a large degree of this. I mean, this is really an open source kind of mindset, right? And I guess that's also, someone said that was one of the guiding principles of the internet, right? Is that anyone can grab a box, plug in, and do whatever they want without having to get prior approval from someone.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like a copyleft situation.
Well, well, yeah, we are sort of, it is, from an intellectual property perspective, it would be like us saying this stuff is under a Creative Commons license or a copyleft. Or actually, even copy, what was you've heard the BSD joke, the Berkeley said is that the corporate people had copyright, which means that only they could do it. The Free Software Foundation had copy left, which means that you had to let everyone do it. And Berkeley, we just had the copy center. I mean, you could take it out of the copy center and make as many copies as you want for any reason.
Okay, yeah, I never heard that.
But yeah. So there's a variety of different. So there's an intellectual property piece. There's the data format piece. There is a public access piece, which ties into the other one. Actually, that's a question.
Ernie, can I invite you to open the add comment field and capture some of what we just said there? Just sort of, notes so they don't disappear.
Where did that go?
Yeah, you're in the ambition. There you are. Yeah. Otherwise, the oral ideas literally disappear and maybe forever.
Well, they're not totally disappeared. They're still in the YouTube video, but yes.
True.
but they're frozen into a currently non-trivially searchable format. Maybe in 10 years, everything will be fully indexed and
Right.
categorized, but right now
But
it's,
this is a good place because at some point we're going to work on the ambition level itself, and then we have some background ideas to, and then later we're going to improve by going to scale and stakeholders and status. And these notes will remind us of good ideas we had that we like, you know.
yeah.
You could even put ideas you don't like and say, don't confuse this with X.
Yeah.
But just, you know, but I'm just, I'm teaching the use of the comments.
Yeah.
In a sense.
And
Easy to miss, yeah. And, okay, now let's go to the other one.
yeah, I say that was kind of the next question I asked. I seem to have kind of folded public accessibility into this one, which I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but it's an interesting thing, right? If the goal is in fact that, because public accessibility now seems like kind of a captured by the first point under permissionless innovation as a sort of a precondition.
Okay.
So that raises the question of,
And by the way, if now that was an insight I wouldn't have guessed at. So that could also go into the comment, you know, the acceptability idea is supposed to be built into this. Yeah, good. And by the way, this word fork was alien to me, but
happy to define it. We've been using that word quite a lot, and we have struggled to define it. So this might be
time for a formal definition.
Yeah, the phrase we've been using is forking culture in the general sense. Let's see if I remember.
Okay, so yeah, put it in hashtags, for example.
Is that the okay? That's right.
There you go.
So,
and even though all three of us might know exactly what it means, we have to prepare the ground for other people looking at it who don't know what we mean by it, for sure. Wonderful. That is so much better. And one of the decisions you have to make here is that little arrow there, whether you want this for the project or just locally here. And you probably want it for the project, but
yeah,
up to you.
I'll try for what voice to use. I guess we can clean them up later. It's always a little bit out of date. I always have to save it before pushing. Anyone want to
So
that before I push it out?
fork is a right in ability. I was looking more like a verb, like to fork, as in to take a version of this project and use it as the starting point of another project.
Pivot is a well-used word in the agile culture for these days.
Right, but that's not changing the business model. This is,
Okay.
yeah,
Distinguish it.
Yeah, the idea is that this is sort of a document or artifact. It's really, usually it's considered in the context of source code of a repository.
It's important to capture that it's an active action. It's not like, driving on a road and then deciding whether to go left or right. In this case, you are actually creating the fork itself. So it's,
right. Well, when I say anyone can fork, I mean anyone can create a fully functional copy tailored to their context.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that?
Yeah, that help. And it's the principle of capturing words like that, which have potentially very many other definitions, and making sure that we agree on them at least and can present them to other people. Yeah. Good, good, good. Okay. So we don't have another one because we integrated it here.
Yeah, I think that seems to, so this is an interesting question. Do I care about public accessibility other than in the context of permissionless innovation? Actually, I care about it either in terms of the context of permissionless innovation or in terms of the tamper-proof development history. And as long as I have those two, I'm
I
probably,
think you need to define public accessibility because I can see many interesting shades of meaning like public, but you have to join the club first.
yeah, actually that's worth, so maybe it's worth spending some time on what I was thinking there before we decided to subsume. That seems wiser. So what I was meaning, this is good. This is forcing me to think more precisely. Was that anyone who is that again? I guess all of our official documents are live on the internet. Again, this is probably too technical again, but we can refine it from there.
Yeah. Okay. And then there's that write and modify copy stuff different from just read.
Yeah, because like, yeah, to me, there's like, one is that anyone can find this stuff, which is I guess, a larger pool of things. Like, for example, the YouTube videos are live and searchable on the internet in some sense, but you can't really fork those.
Well, people, wait a minute, be careful. People do all the time.
Right, it would be called a remix.
Snippets of them, and yeah, so
yeah, that would be more. Yeah, that's interesting because I think about forking mostly in the context of an editable format, where you can whereas, yeah, I guess
videos editable. And
that's
you can
true.
add AI, make them say anything.
That's true. In fact, there's actually a whole genre called reaction videos. Have you heard this? This is
I'm not sure of the term. No.
okay, but the idea is that like one of the more amusing ones is there was this YouTuber called Dan TDM. My kids were really into him a few years ago. He does Minecraft videos, and then someone made a remix of it with rap lyrics of some of his choice phrases and created this Dan TDM remix. And then Dan TDM, for one of his episodes, watched this remix and reacted to that and created, so in a reaction video, you watch a trailer or another video, and then you live broadcast your reactions to it. It's kind of the way that commentators do during sports games or political events. And then the creator of the remix did a reaction video where he watched Dan TDM's reaction to the remix of Dan TDM. So it got very meta very quickly, but it's actually not a bad point. The remix culture certainly, this the Mystery Science Theater 3000 is kind of the old media version of this. But the idea is like, if you could sort of deconstruct people's speeches and political statements and say, hey, yeah, that's actually an important thing. It's not exactly what I think of as forking, but I think it meets the technical definition. So that's probably a good sign. Okay, we digress a little bit. So
I feel we're missing something here, which is the next step here. So what you've got here is a read-only version. Now we need to talk about submitting changes and getting changes approved, that kind of thing.
Right. So right now I've got, okay, so there's the, okay, so good. So let me kind of make sure I'm not losing track of it. So the public accessibility here it is starting to feel more and more like a subpoint of this rather than its own separate thing.
By the way, that is an arbitrary decision, and the choice you make can be useful, but maybe not changing the reality of the logic.
Yeah.
So in other words, I'm not too concerned whether it's a separate objective or we integrate it here, as long as it's there. I'll give you an example of what I mean. If you take the scale of measure and put down, start writing in it, just in square brackets, write
Where I lose it.
access mode or something like that. In square brackets.
Mhm.
Brackets, gotta have square brackets.
Sorry, here.
No, in front of A for access and at the end of E for mode.
Oh, okay.
Right, now, just, tab forward, and now you can write read, copy, spread, suggest modifications, argue for modifications, get modifications accepted, or even forking. But they have a whole lot of different actions there. The point is, this is a nice way of thinking, what are all the different modes of contact with this? And we're getting it, but access mode is, it does it.
Can I set that to usage mode? Because access to me implies passive. That's why I got.
Oh yeah, no, sorry. Yeah, please do change it to use mode or whatever. The cheat there is to, you got it. How do you do that? Yeah, you good. You did copy and paste. I couldn't see you doing it, but I was great. Yeah, no, we're fine. Yeah. So this gives you this thing forces you to think about all the different modes. That's a good, healthy process in itself. You have to now account for each one of these. Okay. And then we can put another thing in the scale there. It's like a participant in square brackets in the scale. And you're forced to think about all the different kinds of, but in square, right? And tab or something. Right, now we have to think about who, for example, there are obvious ones like anybody on the internet, but there are, what if a government decides to pretend like they're being friendly, but in fact to sabotage you? But you're allowing them in for the moment because you don't know that.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is the trolls, is the
trolls. So good, put trolls, right. But it's very useful to think deeply about all the normal kinds of variations of participants and then the weird kinds, the ones that are off the wall, but they're definitely in there. Yeah, so this is very, and we can then add to this set anytime anybody thinks of a participant that needs to be accounted for. Okay.
Right, so with this, one is that it feels like there's a, there's this thing where it seems like we're sort of subsuming a lot of the issues around public accessibility, which is fine. The other thing, which I hadn't thought about, and I don't know if it's a separate thing or in here, is I was primarily thinking of this in terms of the outward riffing culture of people can take this and do stuff with it. But what you brought up about proposing modifications is much more about the, for lack of a better word, democratizing of this, right? That others can not just improve how they're using it, but attempt to improve how we use it, right? And I guess the canonical term for that in open source is the pull request, right? So forking is the process of creating your own copy of something for your private use. But then the pull request that says, hey, this worked well for me. Why don't we upstream this to our, to the parent repository so that everyone can share in those benefits. I almost feel like those are worth let me just throw those in here so we don't lose them, whether or not they're redundant with other things beforehand. But at least, I know what a pull request is as a concrete thing. I'm not quite sure how to define it in other terms. Maybe that will become something we do.
By the way, I'm making notes in the chat so as to not interrupt you, but not fail to think a thought.
Good, thank you.
Thought. And it's called content type. Put it in the scale.
Yep.
Very important. The content type could be the content type could be very different nature, like a definition, a proposed law, or perhaps different things. But
Right.
still, it forces us to think about who do we want to be able to read which content type and or change which content type. It's when you get the combination of all of these qualifiers that it gets to be interested.
What is the right noun for ValPlan? Is it a project or a?
It's an app.
Okay, well, who's the plan app? Okay, well, the content though, the app. What is the thing that we are creating inside of ValPlan?
A project plan,
Okay, ValPlan.
I guess. Yeah.
I'm sure. Okay, that's a content type.
Okay, good. But we're forcing ourselves, and anybody who sits down quietly for 10 minutes and says, I'm going to add 3 or 4 more important things there, can probably do it.
Yeah.
We're only restrained by the fact that we're in a meeting and we have a timing here, but this gets us thinking about those things. And the combinations reveal very interesting insights. Like you wouldn't ever want a participant of type X to change a content of type Y. For example, like Putin's government.
You don't want a troll to have commit privileges is the practical one.
Something like that.
Yeah. And this raises the question of membership and so forth, which is, the day we actually get trolls who actually are willing to put energy into us is a sign that we've reached a massive level of success. Actually worth sabotaging. And hopefully we've escaped the self-sabotage.
There's a funny little thing we're doing. We don't really have a units of measure here, but we're thinking about the parameters at a high level. Okay, so you could just put percentage in the beginning there, and you'd have a pseudo units of measure, but percentage of what, and that participants using model of content that I don't know. You have participate as a qualifier, types of participation. The participant has different types of participation. So participation probably is a qualifier in the scale.
I just realized this is probably the ambiguity that I was wrestling with, was about improve upon. I meant it one way, but we may as well just make it both ways and make it all in this same bucket. I think at this point I'm really feeling good about. Actually, let me just do this and swallow the alternate definition we had, which was here, which was.
I have a general rule, which is that the scale and the wish goal levels should be derived systematically from the ambition level. In other words, you need to go through the ambition level word by word, term by term, and say, have I integrated those thoughts into my scale and my wish? I find that's a very useful rule. Several reasons for that. One is what scale really is an attempt to define and formalize informal ambition levels. Most people are spouting fairly informal ambition level, and that's fine. But that could be somebody at a higher level of authority or a committee or something like that, or a politician or a marketing person for that matter. Yeah, and then, but so scale really is just an attempt to define what is that ambition level all about, really. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's why you have to derive from your scale, and loyally, there shouldn't be anything in the scale that isn't, sorry, there shouldn't be anything in the ambition level that is not reflected in any way in the scale, because then you're cheating. You're sort of eliminating their view or their opinion or their wish. But you got my basic idea. There's a
Yeah, no, I think, yeah, this is good. This is I'm just trying to see this all at once. So yeah, we kind of like, we start with an idea, we elaborate the ambition level, we start putting in more details and terminologies and scales, and then we should probably go back and do the edit pass, which is like, okay, does our tag match our ambition level and match our scale?
Yep, you got it. So the moment you're up there, you were working hard on improving the ambition level in various ways, like defining terms. So that means that we have to especially take a look at your changes and ask, are they in any way reflected in the scale and the wish level?
Yeah.
And if not, you're missing something that's in, you should be, because your scale is just a formal definition of the ideas in the ambition.
Right. So I was basically updating my ambition level to match the usage modes that we identified for request.
Yeah. At some point, it's better for one person to go at this and edit it and work on it, in silence alone for 15 to 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And clean it up, edit.
Yes, I keep having ambitions of doing that and have not done so, which is why I appreciate having this time with you two to help me prioritize.
Yeah,
and you did a ton of work ahead of time, which I really appreciate. Okay, I'm feeling really good about capturing this thing, which was not captured before. And I think, Ernest, I think this also covers the things that you and I talked about on our podcast, right? Is that is where we want to get to, where this is something that is a sort of public good, not a private repository. Right, Ernest? Does that capture kind of things you were thinking about?
Yes, sir.
There was one more thing, actually, that came about on accessibility, which I think is worth calling out. Because it's something that I have struggled with in Valplan.
Before you go on, Ernie,
yeah.
just go here. I want you to put participation type in the scale.
In addition to participant or as?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
It's a different animal.
Participation type.
Yeah.
Okay. And I assume you'll give us some examples, or?
Well, here, just for fun, intentional sabotage.
Okay. With good faith in there, and.
Yeah, and another one is expert genius level generosity. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but you got somebody who's a genius, like been the foreign minister of a country or something like that, or I don't know, president. Let's say Obama wanted to help you with this.
Yeah, well, there's expertise in high status.
Something like that. But that's a special type of participation that's actually participant type. I'm mixing it, but yeah, okay, you're getting it. You're right. You're on it. You're that's fine. You're at the stage where we've got something there. Right, skilled contributor. You know how is it Wiki who rates the seniorities of its contributors, or what am I thinking of now?
Yeah, so Wiki so there's lots of places that have like karma or some sort of score for regulating like giving people status, and
Yeah.
then using a second tier of like moderators or editors who have special powers.
Yeah.
And
So
there's almost like right. So there's two things there. There's one sort of publicly recognized roles. Like it's unlikely that people would self-claim the title intentional saboteur, for example. I guess it's really true that they wouldn't intentionally. We wouldn't want people to just be able to claim that they're a high status contributor too. It's a way that we would. I guess there's different competencies and motivations.
But,
Right.
but by the way, let me point out that some of the participation type things are really participant types.
Yeah, I think that's where I got confused in my writing. I don't know.
Yeah, but I believe there's a difference between participant and any one participant can have multiple participation modes. Clearly.
So actually there's a valuable contribution and intentional sabotage.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Right.
And those guys go up in the participant, but you can just click on the participant and go up to the glossary where it is and put it in there.
Distracting noise.
Yeah. How about fake news inserter?
I think that counts as distracting. Well, that's intentional sabotage, or is that?
Yeah. But by the way, Ernie, when I suggested something there, it may or may not have been a synonym we had there, but it's dangerous to just declare it to be a synonym and not note it because it could be different. It's better in a brainstorming mode to write it down, fake news, and let somebody edit it and define those terms and make sure whether they're the same or not. Otherwise, you risk suppressing a potentially good idea.
Yep, that's right. The open, what is
I'm glad
the saying? Write drunk, edit sober.
Okay. Distracting. Yeah. Good. That's good. You were going to go on with something you wanted to say, and I did want to get this done before you went on.
Ernest, were you going to say something, or
No.
or was I going to say something?
You were in the process of saying, and I interrupted you to get this done.
Oh no, I think I was actually just making. I think I'm actually feeling good about this, and my brain is starting to fill up. And our time is 10 minutes left, so I'm good. If people want to do any more editing or share any other thoughts.
I don't know. Intentional fake. Okay. All right.
Ernest,
Yes.
just say, I will edit everything we did today.
Okay.
Sorry.
Hey,
Was Tom? Were you saying that for yourself, or you were going to tell Ernest to say that?
I was inviting Ernest to take that entire responsibility.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean I'm not going to go through it. I'll be your editor, Ernest.
Okay.
But I prefer that you did it. Ernie's generated a lot of it, and so you and I have been relatively passive. But if you do a major edit and then I review what you've done, then we're all three making it happen together.
Yeah. Do you think you'll have time this week to do a edit pass, Ernest?
Yes.
Okay. And you're able
I'll
to
do
edit
it.
the thing. Do you want to
I
edit
do,
here?
so if
You
at
want
any
to do
point
it?
you press the button, Ernest, and say, please review my stuff, Tom, before our meeting, I have time. I'll do it.
Okay.
I
And
promise.
Ernest, are you comfortable editing it here? Do you want us to do a Word export that we could then re-import, or what?
No, I'll use the tool as is.
Okay. Great.
Okay. But by the way, there's a dumb remark I have to have, which is I'm now for the first time using my new MacBook Pro 14-inch.
Ooh, is this the Apple Silicon?
Supposed to have much better camera, much better audio, and it's and wow. I mean, they finally went back to the good stuff.
Oh, the MagSafe.
Yeah.
Oh
I mean,
my gosh.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so happy with that little detail, not to mention all the other stuff they have, like an HDMI contact and 3 different it's they've finally gone back to the good stuff that some idiot got rid of.
Were you there for that discussion, Ernest, at the gung ho meetings? We had the guy who was in charge of ports come by for one of our little weekly discussions and like the whole history and the politics of DisplayPort and VGA and DisplayPort. And like, I just know that like, he was probably one of the guys who was like, can we just get to one port because it's just driving me bonkers? But yes, I think they figured out, it's good that they figured out how to get some more, to reduce the need for the dongle and still keep it thin. So this is Apple Silicon then, right? The
Yes.
new Apple chip.
Yes.
Yeah. Have you
M1.
noticed anything that is behaving differently or quirky, or like everything just magically works?
Everything works beautifully.
Wow.
My one little hiccup, which I think, I mean, if I were going to give them some design advice, which I won't do because I'm sure they won't listen, when I was trying to do the migration, right? So I start my migration on my other system, and it goes to a point where it says, what is it? It's a word like organizing the doing setup. Okay. So I'm sitting there for 40, and I put my timer on, and 44 minutes later, it's still doing the setup. Now, what's actually happening is it's not working at all. It's static. I'm thinking, why don't they give me a little, bar showing what's happening or something, or a little signal saying nothing's happening.
Yeah.
Nothing. It just says doing the setup. And so I wasted to altogether probably an hour and a half because Apple couldn't be bothered to give me signals. Now, the solution, and I only found out about this by reading up on the network, and it finally said, if all else fails, restart your computer. I restarted my computer and it worked straight away.
Okay, so that was, I think it was not so much a design flaw. I think it was a bug.
That's
right?
a design flaw. You don't hang and give people no information about that nothing is happening.
I don't think anyone, knowing that team, I do not think that anyone thinks it's acceptable. To me, it's a sign that somehow in their testing scenarios, they failed to capture this thing because I know they put a lot of work into trying to get those timing and those bars to be precise. It's just,
no. It's absolutely a design flaw because this is so well known that it's in Google already. For this.
No, I'm not saying it's
Okay. No, they're letting. I mean, how many millions of users are hanging there for an hour, assuming Apple's doing some useful work because it says setting up.
Yeah, but like the setting up thing is supposed to be like a 2-minute thing, and if it's taking
then they could have here the very least they could have printed a message. If this process takes more than 2 minutes, restart.
Yeah,
at the very least.
Yeah,
I am an advocate.
No idea. For me, a setup process can take an hour for migration.
Yeah, no. So it's clearly something went horribly wrong there.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I can guess why actually is that a lot of times what's happening is those first steps are being done in firmware, not in the OS, and that is like the most buggy, least managed piece of software. That's one of my dream projects is to try and fix the firmware world, but that's a different change the world scenario.
But
yes.
Having said that, everything worked, like the migration itself worked beautifully. Thank God I didn't take the option of moving things over part by part, because everything is just working the way it did on my old computer, and that's great.
Yay!
Yay!
Awesome.
All right. Any final thoughts before we call it a day?
No, I'm going to get dinner now.
Okay.
It's 11 p.m., but that's our rhythm here. I was up until 6:30 in the morning playing with my new Mac. So.
Oh, okay. A little time shifted. I hope you.
Yeah, I'm on California time almost.
You are. This is great. Thank you for generously adjusting your schedule to match ours, Tom.
Yeah.
And you have the link. You have this time slot. I will try to send out the reminder, the Zoom reminder. But we will see you next Friday. We will definitely see you. The week after that, maybe not, because that's Thanksgiving in the U.S. and I don't know what my family obligations are. But this was great. And Ernest, you have the homework. I will bug you if I don't hear anything in a couple of days.
Yes.
And we'll see what happens. All right.
And I have my homework to review Ernest's efforts.
Yeah.
Yay. Great job, everyone. Thank you so much.